Good morning, hello, welcome along. It's lovely to have your company. Not a lot to draw today. Let's get some bird song on, although it should be seagulls really, but I haven't got any royalty-free seagulls. So we're going to have to make do with bird song. I wrote that book, Sebastian Faulks. Or Fawkes, bird song. Right. When I was in the book industry, that's one of the best sellers. It ran the no, I haven't. But it's around the same time as Captain Corelli's Mandolin. So, what a slight development from previous gouache classes. If this is the first gouache class you have done, it will be interesting because I've only added something. I've because we make our own in-house watercolor paints. We have quite a few tins and half pans available, and what's been happening is every week since January I've been squeezing the expensive artist quality gouache on my tile and leaving it to dry because I don't want to waste it, because you can use it when it's dry, and then I move the palette away, the tile away, and then as it dries it just falls off the surface because it shrinks. So I'm wasting the paint anyway, is washing it down the sink. So I thought, you know what, I'm going to make a palette. I use slightly different additional colours with gouache than I do with my watercolours and acrylics and oils and all of that. The additional colours I have in here is dioxazine violet, raw sienna and burnt umber and flesh tone, because I do portraits and pet portraits, so they're really handy colours for me to have. But yeah, I've got my two reds, my two yellows, my two blues, and yellow ochre, burnt sienna, black and white. So I've got my usuals, but I've also got a few additional colours, because when I did it's amazing when you're working with animals how much purple is actually in there. And when I did my orangutan time for a natter scene with the two young and older orangutans, their skin was very purple rather than brown, so it's fascinating when you look at it. So I'm going to try using a squeezed out set today. That I've done. So it's the Winsor & Newton paints, but just in my own palette to keep them safe. I'm using the paint on denim paper from Clairefontaine, a nice blue grey. If you wanted to be really out there today, you could use bright orange. Bright orange. And that would be a complementary contrast to the colours that we're using. I was thinking, and I forgot this morning when I got in, because I was thinking on my way home last night, I could almost do these gouache classes in A5 rather than A4, couldn't I? And zoom in, because it wouldn't use as much paint. Because it's a big expanse. But the reason why I've chosen sorry with the camera wobbling, but it's I want to get a flat image. And no, it was me. It's the camera was at a slight angle, so nothing was square on. The beach has got blue-grey tones coming through, so this seems like the perfect solution. If you hear a bang, Jackie's just stapling our new. No, it's fine. I'm just setting the scene. Okay. Jackie's creating a new July to December class brochure. We've finally got round after 2 or 3 months. It's taken us a lot longer this time. Why is it taking me longer? Oh, I'm gone. Let me sort you out with staples. Why is it taking me longer, do you think, this time? It seems like a real
general lethargy of the world.
You can open it for me. I've only done 10 brochures. I don't know. I'll print some more later. I wanted to double check that I'd actually done it right, because we've got a new. Well, we've been loaned a new printer, photocopier, because our other broke and it's on hire purchase. So not even hire purchase, just on hire. So until the global situations can sort themselves out, we've been loaned a different copier, and it's a different brand, and everything about it is different, and we have no idea how to work it. So everything's an experimentation this week until I try to learn out how to do it. Who knows? Will I manage? Will I succeed? Probably not. But I managed to get these booklets, and sometimes it's the little wins that make a difference. So you can see I've got very few lines. I've got the horizon line, I've got the hills on the top, I've got the coastline, a hint of the foreground grasses, and I have got a little dot on the screen where that lone figure is. Colour-wise, quite a few colours, but as always, we don't usually use lots of them. Black and white. White is always useful, isn't it? Ultramarine, cerulean blue, or phthalo blue will work. Cadmium yellow, yellow ochre, and cadmium red. And that's your lot. But I will give you a few more minutes to sketch it out, because I realised my hand was covering a lot of the drawing while I was chatting to you and showing you my palette. Very chilly this morning. On my way in, I could see my breath. I haven't been able to see that for a good week or two. It's been much milder, but today,
Must be dry but chilly at the moment.
terribly chilly.
But apparently we've got rain coming.
Well, we can't have a few dry days without a wet one. Can get a few more printed before the lunch break. Our students this week can be the first lot to have the new brochures. And we'll do a nice big launch on Saturday. We normally launch around Easter time for our July to December. We do them twice a year. Because it does take me a long time to work out every single lesson that we're going to do in every single class over a 6-month period. So over a 12-month period, it would take me a lot longer. And also, in having it in 6 months, so if I can speak, 6-month increments of the brochure, it means if things don't work, we can chop and change and get rid of some classes, create new classes if we get asked for something else. Like in our new lot, we're having a new evening monthly oil class. As you know, this gouache class will no longer go ahead on a Wednesday morning weekly, but there will be opportunities on a Monday morning for gouache and once a month on a Monday evening. So you won't lose your gouache fix if you've been enjoying the classes, because I love gouache as well. Because our Monday evening watercolour class is changing to a Monday evening water-based media class. So 1 week is watercolours, 1 week is gouache, 1 week is watercolour pencils, and another week is pen and wash. So we just change things up a little bit, see how they go. couple more minutes and then we can crack on with it. But I've got my usual gouache brushes. So you know me, I only have a few. I'll use my little short flat one next because it'll do some nice vibrant sunny sky. So that'll be nice. But from the sky down, from the back forward, from the ground up, that tends to be how I work in landscape. We had a lovely Bluebell Wood class yesterday afternoon. Some new people who have said they will definitely be coming back, so that is good. I'll show you what we did, because you could do this in gouache, although we did a lovely, no, that was pastels, we did a lovely Bluebell Wood. But you could do this in gouache on yellow card. That would look quite nice, actually. Yeah, so there we go. More impressionistic with the flowers. Oh, sorry. I haven't got any online orders for you to do today.
No, I'm just going to get my glasses and I can look at life.
Do things. Right, let me get a bit of water on that brush, a little bit of white, and a little bit of cerulean. It's interesting to see the binders when you squeeze it out like this, because the cerulean has dried and it's very cracked, whereas the yellow ochre is still really wet. So a bit like when we did the class on the oh, what's it called, the big statue, Christ the Redeemer statue. We want to try and get a nice uniform sky, which in other media very tricky to do. In gouache, easier, as long as you keep your constant water and paint ratio the same or similar, because it dries flatter and matter. You can do more with it. And if you've done gouache before, you'll know just a little tip of the bristles in the water makes enough fluidity. And because it dries flat and matte, you don't always know what it's going to look like until it has actually dried. It's a nice surprise. I'm going to go with a bit of neat cerulean towards the top. Ooh, that's quite electric. Might add just a little bit of more white towards the horizon to make it a little bit hazier. See, I don't want to go crazy with water, because the water will make the paper buckle, because it is just a thin, well, thinnish card. That's why an A5 picture would probably be much better to work with in many ways. There we go. Let's see what that looks like when it dries. It's hard to tell, as I say, until it actually does dry, but I think that will do. It won't look as electric. It looks better on your camera, as always. It always looks better on the camera. But when you're working like this, it's like with the the acrylic class yesterday afternoon with the bluebell wood. The sky didn't glow until we'd covered up the rest of the paper. So because everything else is quite dark and blue, we won't really get the full feel of the scene until we've covered up a lot of the blue and just helped it as a good base. Because that sea is a gorgeous teal. So would you be able to make up at least a tin today, do you think?
Yes, where's the tins?
It's all over there.
Where's your tin for comparison?
Oh, here, my dirty tin. There.
Okay.
I think if you could make up 2, that would be really good, and then I can make up. I'll make some more paint in my spare time.
Yeah.
Move these easels out the way. Second.
Oh, Barry! Just teaching. You'll have to send an email because we can't use the printer except from the laptop either.
Turns out an on-air sign doesn't actually make any difference. Right. So we want quite a deep, dark land. So we will use a bit of black. And I will put the black on. We can make more green later on. that. So we'll let that dry a little bit, and then I'm going to switch to a smaller flat brush. To go with some green tones, but we just want to give it a hint. But it does need to stand out a little bit more than that. But the dark there will give us, because it's strong sunlight, so it will give us a good contrast. It's not taking very long to dry today, even though it's quite cold and damp. Right, so I'm going to go in with this smaller brush and go with some cadmium yellow. The cadmium yellow I did have a bit of issue with when I was squeezing it out, because it was a tube that had been upside down for ages, so it came out with all of the gunk, you know, the binder. So that was a bit weird. So the yellow, cerulean blue. And of course it's going to dry flat, matte and a little bit darker. A bit like, you know, like the Annie Sloan or the, what's it, the French Chic chalk paints. For walls and furnishings and things. And similar to emulsion painting in many ways, in the way that that dries. So I'm just going to do some dabby patterns along the top. I might do a few slightly darker blue tones in here. I mean, I know I'm saying darker blue and it's sort of disappearing into the black tones. I add a bit more yellow for some lighter parts where the light is hitting. Oh, it's looking quite interesting. So if I use the yellow, cadmium yellow, And we have got ultramarine out as well. I'm just going to clean my brush in between because I don't want to totally discolour all of my paints. Should get some nice blues and blue greens. Just little dots and dabs because it's so far away we can't tell what's going on. Thank you. Might go with a little bit of there's a hint of beach there, so I might go with some yellow ochre and white. Just a little bit of it. A few little lines and bits going along there. Over half an hour in and we've got some semblance of something happening. I might mix some of that green with some of the beach colour, so I can add a few little flicks and highlights and a few little dabs just to add a bit of interest, because I mean this is so far away. I mean you can see how far just the foreground beach is from the size of that figure, so it'll be good fun. I might use a little bit more almost neat white on that beach there, just to make it stand out a little bit more, because it does stand out substantially. Right, let's let that dry. can start thinking about the sea, which is a very electric blue teal tone. There's very little ultramarine in this, but we will be adding some. It's just lots of little random dobs and dobs in that background. It doesn't have to be anything in particular. It's just to give a texture and then the feeling that that is much further away. If you put too much detail in, what will happen is it will bring that closer to us, which we don't want. You can see in the reference image how stronger and deeper, maybe more vibrant it is than the sky. So let's hope we can do it justice. It will involve a lot of cerulean blue. That's why I said if you've got phthalo blue, you might find that more advantageous because it is a lot punchier. But because it's a lot punchier, you need to be more sparing. When you paint, a lot of it is not by trial and error, but it's best to always start incrementally if you're using a colour you're not as familiar with, just in case. You don't have to spend another 3 tubes of paint on top of it to try and counteract what you started with. Right, I'm going to go back with my little flat, well, the bigger flat that I've got, which is still only 1/4 of an inch. Is that about 1/4 of an inch, would you say, Jackie? Because brushes don't have any sizes. It's not 1/2 an inch, is it? Let me get, I'm going to have to measure it now, I've said that. Well, it's in between 1/4 and 1/2.
It does look like it's in between.
Because it just says number 10 on it, which absolutely means absolutely nothing, doesn't it? But never mind. Right, let's go in with cerulean. Maybe a hint of yellow ochre will give us the teal. That's too much yellow ochre. I need to go back in with more cerulean now. And I'm filling in the whole of the sea as well as I can. I'll concentrate mainly at the top down because it does get a little bit lighter anyway, and it gets a bit bluer in places. So maybe just a clean, damp brush. Doesn't have to be that clean. Helps to solidify and uniform the colour. Spread it out. We're not making it runny. Ooh, nice teal colour. But if I stick a little bit of ultramarine in the top right, maybe a little bit over there, but we'll go more. Yeah. Where's the none left knocking about? Have a look on that top tray. Because there should be a tray somewhere with or like a little kidney tin with stuff in it. Oh, and that hasn't got any. Oh, I don't know then. Like that, and I'm going to go with a slightly damp brush with a little bit of white in. This isn't the waves, this is just to lighten the sea. Let me have a look. Let me get this sea in. That's okay. I thought I had a box somewhere with like a cardboard, but a brown box. But I think I must have emptied it out. So where would I put?
I found the lantern.
Oh, you found the
I
lantern?
haven't found any bits.
Oh. Maybe I used it all. I made it exactly the size to fit the box, which I think is A7. So that's A5. I did A5 in half and then half again, and maybe had to trim it a little bit. But if it's not, there's all the stickers and things on there, and please keep flat. No, looks like just trim it. The guillotine is here. Just give it a try. Just need to slice off an extra bit off the tops. it's good to be prepared. Squeaky. Right, now that's dried, I need to add more white to lighten the coast where it meets the sand. Just more white. I'm letting it blend in, because this is not the waves, this is just the lighter shoreline. Something like that. Because the waves actually come in the middle of that line, not on the edge of that line. So we can put that in afterwards. Let it dry. Hurtling towards coffee break time. So I'm going to get my little number 2 brush and wet it to go into some white. Now I want the white to be quite thick, but enough water for it to move across. Because if we dilute it too much, it's going to go just disappear.
No, we don't have anything in that's nice unedited water because we use more because we get it delivered with water over outside. We have like Manhole, I think it's the A1, Jet Clinton A1. Yeah.
A few little lines. Because it is so far away. But this isn't on the edge of the blue, this is halfway through the blue and the light. Slipped with my white there. A bit dark there. There might be some very thin. There's my other brush, which is smaller. 0, that's better. Because there's a few little white lines, and if you struggle getting it thin enough or fine enough, just use a gel pen, and that will give you the depth you need. Something like that, I reckon. Actually, it might be a good idea to stop now before we start on the beach. If you want to make yourself a drink. Yeah, I think we'll do that. We'll do drink break now, because at least then we've got the second bottom part of the picture that we can work on. Afterwards, we're back in a min.
You do. I can't actually make any more. That's that. Can't do it anymore. I can only do 2 sets. Due to limitations.
I don't know when I'm going to get time to make them.
Not now. As long as I can use it then.
Well, you probably if I haven't done it on myself. So.
Doesn't it?
Right. Time to do the beach.
Oh, where's the stickers?
It should be up the stickers. The sticker should be up there, pet. In the tray.
In the sticker drawer.
In the sticker drawer or the tray. And it'll see Barry's paint box all over it. That goes underneath.
Yeah.
Right. We're going to go with a lot of yellow ochre. What?
Just a switch in accent there for like, it's a now. Good.
Going into yellow ochre. Substantial amount of yellow ochre. It's a large area of beach. Oh, let's move the palette up so you can actually see the colours. It would help, wouldn't it? A lot of yellow ochre. A little bit of cadmium red in there, I think. The water. There's building work going on next door as well, as the new business moves in. So that's exciting. Cadmium red. We're not aiming to make it orange, but we are aiming to lighten it somewhat. White. Maybe I want a bit more red in there. You have to be careful with cadmium red because it's quite a hungry colour. I'm going to do it that colour to start with, and I actually think I'm going to squeeze some white gouache on my tile because I know I'm going to absorb way more gouache for the white. Let's go with paler because it is much paler. When I'm looking at it on the screen, it's a very white sand. I've got to leave that. There's an area of sky. There as well. we'll put this on. When we can skim some white, maybe I should be using a bigger brush. This is where I was saying this earlier, an A5 size would probably work well for me. But you can see as it's drying dull and matte and dark. So I'm almost certainly going to need to add a lot of white and probably more red. Trying to come from one angle. If I draw a few lines like this, you can hopefully see where I'm coming from. So it comes across in that way. So we've got to do something with that area of water. Although using a smaller brush does mean I take my time a little bit more, otherwise I'll be finished a few minutes ago. And there is a little bit more. For that bit, so I'm going to squeeze some more white out as that dries, because it's amazing how much paler that sand is. So I think, because I'm testing my tin out to see how it works, I think I'm really pleased with it, but I will probably have to have an additional white blob. Right, more white, and I think I'm going to go with a little bit more cadmium red actually. It's more of a pinky tone. So more red and more white. Just realised I painted over that little man I drew. If this goes a little bit more dry brush, then I'm fine with that. I want to try and create the motion of the sand. So I'm keeping the flat brush flat against it and doing a few wiggle lines. So as the colours are running out, I'm just skimming it over parts of the rest of the beach there. There might be a few little tones, but we've got lots of dark grasses to stick in here. Right, let that dry because I'm going to have to lean all over this. What you may notice if this is your first gouache or you've done only a few classes is gouache will linger in your bristles, and you'll one quick dip and a shake isn't going to get rid of the paint from your bristles. So you do need to stab it and jab it a little bit more. So that's really got to dry, but we're doing well for time. It's taking a bit longer to dry. I'll just open my tea. So we've got that bit of water to do, a little figure, maybe some dirty texture, stony bits on the beach, and then the really dark grass. That's a shame. He's all right though.
Yeah, he had family emergency.
That's all right. We've still got a full class because we've got there's a few away, but there's everyone else is here. This is still drying. It's all right, isn't it? It always looks different on the screen though.
Where's this speech? Doesn't look like Whitley Bay.
I think it's somewhere Scottish,
Right, it could be.
near Edinburgh,
Oh no, I don't think so.
because that says there, Edinburgh Spotlight.
I think it's somewhere like.
But it's beautiful colour sea. Actually, I don't think I need my little tin out for a minute. Interestingly, out of all the colours that we've used, my water jar is green. You'd think it would either be blue or ochre, but maybe that's the problem. Right, if I go with some white into my teal. Should be a little bit darker around the edges of the sand where it gets just a little bit more damp. I suppose I could do a Google reverse image search. Couldn't I?
Tyree, maybe.
The Rose of Tyree.
Somewhere on the western side of Scotland, though. Hebrides.
Barra.
I said what's one of
I reckon it could be Barra. Barra. Aye, well done. Your Scottish knowledge is quite good, Jacqueline.
Habarrow, Hosnock.
Oh, you asked me what cat and dog was, didn't you, recently? And I've just learned them. Key is dog.
Coo.
It's C-I in Welsh. Key. And cat is cath. C-A-T-H. Cath.
Chanil Barai.
Do e a shaki. I want a dog. I want a chihuahua. I want a dog. Like Jack Russell, I think would suit me. Little, a little Jack Russell.
That was wasted on you.
Soz. Put a bit more white on there in a minute. Hopefully it's a nice relaxing session for you today. The trouble is when you've got large areas of nothing, which we have really with this beach, haven't we? The problem we face is that there is nowhere to hide, in that our brush strokes have to make sense. Because you can't shove a bush in front of it, or a tree, or some ivy. It's just a very open expanse. I've got a few beachy scenes coming up over the next few months in different classes. It's always tricky. Maybe a little bit more lighter white right in the middle. Make it feel a bit more reflective, perhaps. And I'm going to have to go right down with my thin brush and a bit of black. To draw a little carrot. So tiny. I can lift that up so you can see. Tiny head and shoulders. And then we can add a bit of runnier colour for shadow, which is running off towards the right. Because he's alone on the beach. If I use some of this colour, this is some of the black that we had. And I can just do a few little dots and stony effects. Just shadows in the sand, really. It just adds to some texture. I don't know what it is. Not been there. It just looks like how the wind's whipped up a few bits, but you've got to be random with it, because otherwise it will look like weird. So try not to think about it when you're doing. Become absorbed in it, but don't think about it. Let's let that dry. Do we want just one person, or should we stick somebody else in, Jackie? What do you think?
I like simpletons.
Yeah, somebody just enjoying his walk before anybody else arrives.
Quite remote.
Not a romantic walk, then.
It depends what the idea of romance is.
think about some of the grass. Planted quite a few bluebell woods this week. It's outside, isn't it? Can you hear that little beeping, dear listener? Got up and it stopped. Maybe the threat of me getting up scared it. Right, we want.
All the music.
Oh yeah, there's another busker.
Who's put on buskers?
So we go with some black, like my soul.
You don't have one?
Only the ones I eat.
Ginger.
Yep. I'm doing some grasses. Little flicky uppy bits. Spiky. Little clumps. Keep it slightly different. Less. I think I've got this a bit too sparse in the foreground. Because when I put the lighter green, I say lighter green, the green on top, because we haven't put any green, this is just black. Yeah, something like that will give us a nice bit of depth. I'm actually putting some, because we're quite elevated here, I'm putting some a little bit off the edge. Because that will give us some nice extra depth. And then we'll do some greens. Yes. fact, I don't know if I'll do any more to that beach, but we do need to do some green for the grass. But then that means we're finishing a lot earlier than we would. But it is a simple scene in a way. But that doesn't necessarily mean it is simple to paint. A simple to see paint picture isn't really simple to paint because, as I said, you've got nowhere to hide. It is what it is, and you can't stick anything in front of it or move it. The only thing you could do is like put bigger grass in the foreground, but then you'd lose that feeling of elevation, and the man would just look like an ant. But gouache is lovely because you can, in the same way as with pastels, you can get good contrast because of the opacities of it. And that's why I've been really keen, although we've been open for 12 years this year. Hopefully we'll carry on opening to 13 and 14. It's a bit quiet out there, folks. It is like this beach. Except this beach has got somebody in it. But anyway, we've always done watercolour classes, then we added acrylic classes, then we added drawing classes. And adding gouache and pastels has been a really good move for us. But as I say, I'm often not teaching anybody in real life doing these gouache classes. So if I make it monthly and on a Monday evening and change that, it should be more cost effective because I don't want to lose the element of gouache. Because I think as an art centre, art shop, it's important to try and have all platforms covered. So from July we will have, when I say regular, it might be weekly, it might be fortnightly, it might be monthly, but we will be having regular watercolour classes, regular drawing classes, regular acrylic classes, regular pastels classes, regular oil classes, regular gouache classes, regular pen and wash classes, regular art history classes, regular calligraphy classes. Yeah, I mean that's nearly all the disciplines, isn't it? The only thing we're missing is life drawing, but our room is not set up or the right size. It's a very small room, and for life drawing you need a lot more space for people to gather around the model, really. Because otherwise it would be no different to me finding a royalty-free photograph of a still life model and putting it on the screen instead of the beach there on your screen. Just have a figure. Because weirdly, I did a class last year, or maybe it was during lockdown. It was in this room where I created a vase of flowers from still life, and the camera was on the vase of flowers. But actually, it didn't need to be because it could have been a photograph. Because once it's on a screen, unless it's moving frantically, it just is a stationary image, isn't it? Right, I'm going with some more cad yellow and cerulean. To make a nice green tone. And I'm going to put that over the top, but not covering all of the black. Again, too runny and you'll lose opacity. So we're not actually covering that black as, you know, we're not going over it. These green grasses are separate blades. And that's what helps add depth. sure I'm wiping the ferrule. Nice that I've got Monday off, Jackie. And Sunday this week.
I'm going to do a bit of else actually.
Go to a what?
Else actually.
Why would I go there? I will probably just stop at home and hide from the rats. And I have got a class on the evening on the Monday night. But I won't be doing that from July. Actually, I will probably be working, but from home, looking at different courses I can run and in the other elements of my life and promoting my singing. So the stuff I can't do while I'm here. Maybe a runny black just to give a little bit of shadow running in the same direction as our little man's shadow. If I had more time, I could do busking outside. I used to earn quite a bit of money with people paying me to stop. A bit more white. This has definitely saved me so much paint, Jackie. Squeezing it in a tin. Yeah?
Yes, I'm pleased with that system.
I am.
Nice.
It just means I need to add more. I just need to have a squeeze of white. White is the one thing that I need extra of. And that's okay. Because today was an experiment. It seems like the cerulean blue has got an airlock in it because there's a big hole in the middle. Let me fill that in. And when you squeeze out into these half pans, by the way, you're only using like an eighth of a tube, maybe a sixth of a tube. So you're not wasting loads and loads. Just as a little aside. Do you know, I really can't do any more to this. I'm really pleased with how it's come out. I could do a few slightly lighter teal tones in the distant water, teal and white. But that is a really pleasant painting. I've had a lovely time today. I'll take a photograph of this and post it underneath. You can see my beach tones I've left darker. The lighter tones are exactly the right colour, but I've left it a bit more ochre-y than it actually is, just to give more contrast. That's basically the only reason. So thank you so much for your company today. If you do this at any point on ArtStream or whenever, at any point in the future, do send us a message so we can see what you do, because we do love seeing your creations too. So thank you ever so much. Have a wonderful week, whatever you're up to. Enjoy the bank holiday if you're watching this in the end of April. Another month gone. It'll be May next week. Our gouache class next week. We're doing a bluebell wood in gouache. I haven't done a bluebell wood in gouache. I've done a watercolour bluebell wood, a pastel bluebell wood, an acrylic bluebell wood. I'm doing bluebells this afternoon in pencil. So next week will be a lovely bluebell wood scene. So that's going to be really nice to do. Then we've got Cotswold lavender the week after. So really nice, relaxing views. So thanks ever so much for your company. Take care, stay safe, and I'll see you all soon. Bye bye, everybody. Bye bye.